Hi, it's Steph. Welcome back to my channel, where tonight we're continuing on with taco dinner. Tonight we'll be making two really easy, really delicious sides for our steak taco dinner. Last week we used a slow cooker to make the steak for our tacos. Normally when I make this meal, I'd be starting that steak about an hour and a half to 2 hours ago, just to make sure that it's done when everything else is done. The other longer project of this meal is the refried beans, and I'm going to be showing you how I make them in my Instant Pot. And my husband raised a really good question earlier this week when I was telling him about what I'd be filming. He said, well, that's not really super helpful if you don't have an Instant Pot. But my feeling on it is that the Instant Pot is a super hyped kitchen appliance. And when I got it for my birthday, I actually had asked for a new rice cooker, and my husband picked this out and he was like, well, it says it does a bunch more stuff, so maybe you'll get some use out of it. And the truth is, I have. So that's why I'm showing it to you. You can definitely make refried beans in a pot on the stove, but the beans require soaking and a lot of extra work that gets eliminated by the Instant Pot. My main goal for this channel is to show you how you can make every meal from scratch, start to finish. That does not mean, however, that you have to cook everything the hardest way possible, not use any cheats, not use any frozen food, blah, 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 blah. I think I found a happy medium on a lot of my dishes, and I want to share that with you. And if you're on the fence about whether or not you want an Instant Pot, hopefully seeing some of the ways that I use it will help you see if you think you would get good use out of it. The first ingredient, beans. Duh. I like to use black beans. You can 100% substitute pinto beans. Most people recommend rinsing your beans. Because this is going in a pressure cooker and I'm extremely lazy, I don't wash them. I have not come to regret that yet. We may see the day. The next ingredient is water. Check for any floaters. From experience, I know that I like to have a little extra salt in addition to the taco seasoning that I'm going to put in there. And in case you didn't see last week's video, what have you been doing? This is pre-made taco seasoning that I buy in bulk and then just put it into a smaller container because it's actually way cheaper than buying individual packets. So I'm going to add some garlic. Last, we're going to add some onion. You can really, really roughly chop it. One quick note here, if you like to have like refried beans that are mostly whole beans, you might want to chop your onions more finely. The reason that I rough chop them is because I like to take a potato masher tour, so they're like some whole beans, some kind of creamy, so that they're like chunky mashed potatoes that have a gift that keeps on giving and smelling. So because I actually mash them, the onions will be soft enough to just kind of throw out the beans. The next dish that we're going to be cooking is what I like to call Fiesta corn. For this recipe, I use frozen corn and a dry pan. I don't add any oil. And what happens is I put the heat on about medium high, and as the corn thaws, the skin roasts a little bit. And so what you wind up with is like a fire roasted corn. And I just spread it kind of evenly. Correction, you wind up with what looks like fire roasted corn and also tastes like. I'm really going to let this sit for 4 to 5 minutes before I even touch it. The inspiration for this recipe was a dish at a Mexican restaurant in Korea. They had a different name for it. I don't remember what it was. But it was a corn that was kind of spicy and kind of salty, kind of cheesy, but it definitely had a Mexican flair to it. It was hands down my favorite thing at that restaurant, even though I think it was like a seasonal specialty item because it stopped being on the menu. Maybe they were just trying to look out for my regularity. I don't know. So you'll see that since we've been just letting it sit there, it actually starts to brown all on its own. And this is just a non-stick pan. Once we've reached the level of toasty that we're after, we're gonna drop a lump of butter in and turn off the heat. I don't like to cook it for too long. The total cook time on it is probably about 5 to 7 minutes, depending on how much corn you use and how high your heat is. And you can crank up the heat pretty much as high as you want. My preference on this dish is for the corn to still be really chewy. I don't want it to be overcooked or having like the corn slipping out of the kernels or have it seem slimy. After that butter's melted, I'm gonna add some cayenne. My son loves this dish, and the way we get around the cayenne is that I add the other ingredients and do the cayenne last for my husband and I. Another thing I love about this recipe is that there's no measuring. You can just make it to taste. If you like a little cayenne, put a little. If you want a lot, put a lot. Once that's on there, I'm gonna add some Parmesan cheese, and that gives it a really, really nice saltiness. This is one of the few recipes that I don't add salt to. You know I live to oversalt things. I'll add a little bit of pepper on top, and then the only caution that I'll give you is that you definitely want to get this out of the pan right away because you don't want the corn to sit there and overcook. Once it's in its serving dish, you can crumble some Mexican queso fresco on it and even add some cilantro on top. It looks really pretty, it tastes really delicious, and it's really easy to make. It's like the perfect addition to any fiesta night. I really hope you enjoyed this video on the best buddy sides for steak taco night. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.